Hello everybody, I'm Nora Burrows. I created in a recent video these pieces. The video is called Block Problems Cause Hellish Reaction. And I ended up with these. I couldn't use them in that particular project. I actually have more of these. There's probably like 6 or 7 and a bunch of odds and ends. And I thought, what can I do with these? I have an idea. Let me show you what I'm thinking. I have 5 of these diamonds. In addition, I have some of these pieces that were cut off when I made the diamonds. Some of them are bigger and then some of them are pretty small like these, but I have a bunch of these. In addition, these are secondhand. I didn't create them, but funny enough, I found these after I had already made these and I thought, well, this would go well as well. It's like almost literally the same exact thing. And then there's this piece that's a square. So I was thinking when I was looking at all of these triangles that they kind of, green triangles make me think trees. And obviously with the diamonds, you can just cut these in half. So I want to make trees, but I don't want to make them all, exactly the same. I want them to be, wonky and different. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make trees with all of these little odds and end pieces. Now for my background, I'm going to do something that I really never do and pair purple with green. I am aesthetically very opposed to purple and green. I just don't think that they look very nice together, but never say never, because in this case, that is what we're going to use as a background. I just wanted to do something different than the traditional blue background with the green tree. Let's see how we're going to do this. First thing, I'm going to make all of these into triangles, which means I'll cut these in half. And then for these types of pieces, I'll cut them to be more triangle-like. Here we have our triangles, our trees. Some of them are really long like this one, and then some of them are fatter. There's also small ones, big ones. We're gonna do the same exact thing to all of them, but let's start with one. Let's start with this one here. Now, some of the trees have the strips going on the diagonal, and then other trees have them going horizontal. It doesn't matter, none of this matters, but let's find a background to go with this piece and a trunk. We'll use this deep purple and black background here. And what I'm going to do is do my trunk first. So I'm going to cut, and we'll use this for the trunk. I'm going to cut a rectangle of my trunk. I've cut out my trunk and then the 2 backgrounds to go on either side of my trunk. Now there are no measurements for this because each one of my tree blocks will be different and your blocks will be different from my blocks. So you're really just following along the process and not the actual measurements itself, which is kind of fun. So the thing you want to keep in mind with the trunk is that you want to cut it bigger than you think because you're going to lose some in the seam allowance. It will get smaller. The background pieces, you want to make sure that you don't just cut it in line with the edge of your tree, because the next step is going to be to cut the background of the tree, and you're going to make cuts going down this way. So you need your pieces to be long enough where when you cut down like this, it will get all the way to the edge. I'm going to sew right sides together 1/4 inch along here and iron. Same with the other side, 1/4 inch and iron like that. I have my trunk unit sewn here. I'm going to cut a nice straight edge along the side that's going to connect with the tree. Now I'm going to sew my tree part to my trunk part. Now you may be wondering, why would I not just add on the sides of the background to the tree first and then connect the full tree to the trunk unit? You could do that. That would work. However, for me, it creates this seam that goes right along here. And instead, I'd rather have my seams come down this way. You'll see what I mean. Let me attach the tree first. So 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to cut a straight line right down each side. And this is where I'm talking about the seam is on the diagonal instead of right across the middle. Kind of cutting your block in half, to me, looks a little choppy. This is a little bit more natural, but you can do it any way you want. So now I'm going to take another piece of background and attach it to the side. You want to make sure that your strip is wide enough that when you come up this way, so I might need a little bit of a wider strip, because if I come up this way, I'm going to have a piece that's empty here. Now, if that happens, that's no big deal. I would just add another piece of background. You could even add a different color purple, which kind of looks scrappy and cool. Like if I ended up with a spot here, I could just add another piece here, and that looks very sky-like, I think. But maybe I'll do that. Let's try and add this piece on, and if it's not big enough, I'll just add another piece. I'm going to add this piece here by doing right sides together, 1/4 inch, and press. Now I'll make a cut on this side. Right along the diagonal. And add a strip of fabric to the other side, right sides together, 1/4 inch. Next, I'm going to square this up, and then we can decide what we want to do with the bottom. You can either just leave it as is. We could add a strip of green to make it look like grass. You could add a strip of background so that it would be more like the tree was floating. And I'm not exactly sure what I want to do, but I do want to see how big this block is going to be. So let's say you need to take into account some seam allowance. You don't want to have this right up against the edge, because you'll get your point cut off. And I'm going to give quite a bit of room, actually, and it turns out I have plenty. I'm going to make this actually as big as I can. I have plenty of room up in this corner up here where I thought that I might have to add some fabric. I, in fact, do not. So I'm going to cut it right about here, which is 3/4 an inch away from the edge of the tree. And I'll leave the same amount on the other side, though, you know, you don't have to. You could, the tree doesn't have to be centered in the middle of the block. And what I'm noticing is I may need to add some fabric to this side. Let's see. So this is where it starts to kind of cut in. So if I put my ruler there, I do technically have enough space. You know, it's more than 1/4 of an inch away from the top, but I do want to give it a little bit more room. So I'm going to bring it all the way up to here, which is about 1 inch away from the top. Now you have just a little nub there. Now, instead of adding a different fabric, I think I'm just going to take this little piece and add it to the corner there. In terms of the trunk, let's take a closer look. I made the trunk a little bit big. This is probably bigger than I want, and it's not quite centered. So that's just something to think about when I make my other blocks. I can kind of use this as a comparison. But in general, I think this is a super cute tree. I really like it. I'm going to do this same exact thing with the other trees, and then I'll decide what to do with the bottom here and fix this little top. I've made 7 trees. I have a lot more to go, but I'm going to stop here for today. Let me show you the 7 that I did. These 3 I put together into a unit, and I think this looks pretty good. I like how these 2 fabrics are the same, and then there's kind of this pop over here. Now let me show you the other ones. I have these two bitty ones that are super cute, and those actually could go kind of under here, and then I could just add a strip of fabric either on one side or in between. Then I have these 2, which I found to be less successful. I think that, you know, the tree part really pops against that background, and I do think that background is really cool, but the trunks really get lost, especially on this one. And then I just feel like the background just doesn't quite go as well with these 2. So I'm going to think about it. Unfortunately, I have very little of this fabric and this fabric. I was just using scraps, so I don't have very many left. I have yardage of this one, so I'll think about that. I did make a video of this same kind of thing, only it didn't have these stripy pieces in the middle. It was really just solid fabric. It's called Wonky Tree Quilt Blocks. It was more with kind of neon and bright colors. So check that out if you want. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.